All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. This is just for those of you who serve commercial or residential accounts who are interested in being a business person who just happens to be a contractor. I want you to think about that a little bit. It's very different than a contractor who jumps job to job, project to project. This podcast is about the business of the construction and contracting business. My job is to share with you construction millionaire secrets, plain, flat English. That's what I'm here to do. So that's actually the name of a book that I wrote called Construction Millionaire Secrets. But that's what we want to share here. Now, today we're on the topic of people. And I've got a guest for you, Ryan Englin. Now, Ryan's been on the show before and he was very popular. So today we're going to talk about hiring mistake horror stories. And if you want to hear Ryan's other episode on my show, it was back episode 234, How to Hire Better People Faster. Can you see why people downloaded that one? A lot. But today, hiring mistake horror stories. And I think we've all had them. I've had them. Usually for me in the people category, when it's a horror story around people, it's because their attitude is bad. They're just a real drama kicker. Nick, if you're listening, crazy situation that you had, Nick, and dealing with it and finding out about it afterwards. Colin, if you're listening, it was a family situation that was really difficult to deal with. And it took a lot of, what do you call it? I want to say intestinal fortitude, but those are fancy words. It took a lot of guts to do what you had to do. How many of you are facing a difficult people decision, and that difficult people decision is actually holding back the business or affecting your family or affecting you or affecting others? Let's talk about that. You're not alone. It happens to all of us, but how we deal with it, how it evolves, and what we do really defines how this business is going to grow or change. Or, what happens if you don't change? Something else is going to happen. Listen, you can find Ryan and myself on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Facebook for adults, for those of you who aren't on there. But connect with us on LinkedIn. Ryan's name is spelled Ryan Englin, Englin. He's on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn if you're not connected with me there. I'm also on Facebook on the Contractor Strategy Group. It currently does not suffer from overposting. I will say that both with pride and as an apology. But I don't want to post anything if I don't have anything to say. But I noticed that it's still an active group. People are posting questions and answers. There's a lot of value there. And you need to be in there so that you're around the other people who listen to this show talking about the business of the contracting business. Now, this particular episode is important because the people question is one of the biggest limiting factors that we have because there's so many variables in it. So many variables on the people side. We can control machinery to a certain extent. Once we know our numbers, we can control our cash. But the people side, that's a big unknown. We're inviting people into our family. We're creating like a fake family from scratch. And how well we do that dictates how well our company is going to do. So for those of you who found challenges with that, I think you're going to enjoy what Ryan has to share. For those of you who are doing really well at that, of course, you're listening to this episode for the exact reasons we all know you do, because you're always looking to get better in the people category. So congratulations and welcome. I'm always trying to get better. Right now in our company, we're onboarding a new person. His name is Rio. Some of you may hear from him from time to time. Rio is here to help me get my calendar under control and to make sure that stuff doesn't fall through the cracks, because we are very blessed to be incredibly busy. But that means we can only talk to the most serious business owners out there. And so Rio is here to help with that. Actually, Rio came from a referral from another contractor I know very well. And and it's funny, he came through a referral, even though I was putting a ton of effort into all of the other paid methods that you and I talk about anyways. And then poof, out popped this very real referral to an excellent person who I'm very proud to have on the team. That's how things work, right? And by the way, you guys have heard me talk about this before. Day one, slide number 2 is always the same. It talks about the values of our company and what we believe in. Where you might be questioning is, what's slide number 1? Slide number 1 is all the admin stuff. Here's your email address, here's security codes, passwords, and all that stuff. Here's how to file your tax, all that administrivia. But slide number 2 on day 1 is the values and what we believe in. So think about how you're onboarding people and bringing people into your organization. Is there consistency? One of the things, from those of you who read the book have heard me say this, construction millionaires train everybody the same. They train everybody the same. Just for a second, I want you to imagine an active and busy construction site, right? You've got the muster station, and right behind the muster station is the construction trailer. Inside the construction trailer is a site super, maybe an engineer, a couple of other people, safety, etc. All the way through that site are a number of other people, including a new person who just joined as a junior, right? Maybe a laborer, maybe a handyman, something like that, a gopher. All of them get trained the same. Now you might think, well, Dom, how do they do that? How do they train the CFO? It's the same as they train the junior person. Of course, the training changes, but it always starts with who we are and who we serve. You guys will remember that my ranching buddies taught me something that I'll always keep in mind. If you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. What does your company stand for? What does it mean to be in your company? I just had a great conversation today with a gentleman who built a company from scratch. He's got he's got a total of 10 employees, but 2 of them are part-time. But his problem is his name is on the business and he's not satisfied with the quality of the work that's being put forward. And he feels like it's trashing his family name. So does he have a quality problem or does he have a people problem? Well, he has high expectations for quality, but the people aren't following through with that. So he has a people problem. When we look deeper at the people problem, we have a culture problem. So listen, today, Ryan and I are going to unpack this. I hope you already got a lot of insights from just this intro, but you're going to get even more here with Ryan. We're going to be talking a little bit today about the mindset of success as business owners. And I just said mindset. You know what that means? It means it's time for dad jokes. Normally, it means it's time for bad jokes. Normally, and bad jokes poorly delivered with poor timing. Normally. But today, I really want to go down the philosophical angle with you because we're going to be talking about that mindful stuff. And so I want to share some stories with you to get your mind open and thinking about the people problem from a bigger perspective as a shareholder of the company and about the limiting beliefs that we have as business owners and some of the opportunities we have to expand on them. Can we do that today? So here's a story for you that's to start us off. It's a story about something called processionary caterpillars. Now, I learned this story from a very wonderful, honorable, just a great guy named Carlos Rosales. He's in Texas. Carlos, geez, I hope you're listening, bud. Great, just a great man. He always talked about processionary caterpillars. There's a French scientist, Jean-Henri Fabre. He did an experiment with these processionary caterpillars. Now, these caterpillars feed on pine needles, and they move through the forest in these long processions, these long lines, where one caterpillar puts its head on the other caterpillar's butt, and they just line up and they follow each other in procession. So they're called processionary caterpillars. And now they all march along, assuming that the one in the front knows where he's going. So in one of the experiments that Fabre did was to put the caterpillars in this large flower pot. So they were going in a circle. He had them connected, right? One's head was on the other's butt. One's head was on the other's butt. Horrible visual, but it was the science experiment, right? He got them connected and they formed a circle. Now that circle had no beginning and no ending. And instinct told them what to do. They just started moving around and around the rim of the flower pot. Now, the scientist, Fabre, assumed that at least one would eventually realize this was a useless march and break the circle. But he was surprised to find in his experiment that this creeping living circle just kept going around the rim in a mindless journey to nowhere. And they kept going, not for 1 day and not for 2 days, not for 3 days. They kept going for more than 4 days, more than 5 days, more than 6 days, 7 days. These caterpillars continued to march head to butt around the rim of that flower pot, even though Fabre had put food and water in the middle of the flower pot. And guess what? They marched themselves to death. They didn't stop and take advantage of the situation. They were just slaves to staying with what they had been doing, hoping that something would change, and it didn't. Here was part of Fabre's scientific conclusion. He concluded that they were, and I'm going to quote him, they followed instinct, habit, custom, tradition, and precedent, past experience or standard practice, or whatever you want to call it, but they were following it blindly, end quote. And his final conclusion was that they mistook activity for accomplishment, end quote. That's what I'm talking about when we talk about the challenge for all of us, me just as much as you. Am I working smarter or am I working harder? And today with Ryan, I want to really dig into that a little bit. I want to get you thinking about working smarter, working through your people, People are a leverage tool. I don't mean that impolitely, but it's a way for us to expand our influence. It's a way for us to do more with less. That's what we're trying to do. It's a leverage tool. Think about that with yourself. Think about that with your family, right? Now, I also want to tell you a story about the Burmese teak industry. There's a man who was in Burma and he was looking at teak wood. He was going to import it. And as you know, teak forestry has a lot of elephants in it. And so this gentleman was at the teak plant. You know, Jake Power, one of the coaches on our team, runs a cedar mill. I don't think he has any elephants working for him, but it makes me think of maybe it was Jake who was on this teak tour looking for new wood sources for his mill and his plant. So this man's passing the elephants and he stops and he realizes these huge, powerful, beautiful creatures are being held by a tiny rope that's tied to their front leg. There's no chain, there's no cages, nothing. Now, it's pretty obvious the elephants could break away from their bonds, but for some reason they didn't. And they're moving around huge logs, but they're held back by tiny, tiny little ropes. So he saw a trainer nearby and he asked, why do these animals just stand there and they don't even try to get away? And the trainer says, well, when they're young and they're a lot smaller, we use a rope the same size to tie them. And at that age, it's enough to hold them. It's fine. But as they grow up, they get conditioned to believe they can't break away no matter how hard they try. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free. What an amazing observation. These animals could break free at any time, but because they believed they couldn't, they were stuck right there, not by the rope, but by their own minds. How many of us are doing that? How many of us have limiting beliefs that are holding us back in growing our own business? Or maybe you've got great and abundant beliefs, but the person that we're talking about here on your team has limiting beliefs and they're refusing to change. You're not getting buy-in from your team. When I think about that, I then think about a quote from one of my favorite authors. His name is Sun Tzu. You guys are laughing. You're like, of course, Dom, Sun Tzu. Try to work that into every episode. I love Sun Tzu. I think it's very wise quotes and observations and strategies that he has in his book. The book is called The Art of War. No, I don't get a commission if you buy it. It's just a great book, and I think you should buy it. It's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. He lived around 500 before Christ, 500 years BC before Christ. Here's one of the quotes that I love that directly relates to this. He says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, but defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. What does that mean? That victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Think about that for a second. And then defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. That to me talks to strategic planning. It talks about being intentional. It talks about running this business on purpose. It talks about being proactive in your business, not reactive in your business, knowing your numbers, holding yourself accountable, doing the simple things that count. Be a victorious warrior. Win first in your mind, win first on paper, right? You guys have heard me do this. If you've ever listened to the episodes where I did live coaching with volunteers, you'll hear me planning with the person I'm coaching. Like, okay, you've got a goal. What's it going to take to hit that goal? And then we do something called anticipating bottlenecks. We know what your goal is. What are the bottlenecks that are going to come up? What are the hurdles? What are the problems? And you guys have heard me say this before. Problems are going to come up. But Dominic Rubino, I want to share with you the same thing that my coaches will do. My coaches are Lee Miller, Ryan Hindmarsh, Jake Power. We all do the same thing. You show us the problem, and we will help you find a way to go over it, to go under it, to go around it, to go through it, or to take that problem and manipulate it so it works to our advantage. That is the intentionality of saying that victorious warriors go to win first and then go to war, but defeated warriors just go out there and start working. They mistake action for wisdom. It's not. You've got to have a plan and then follow the plan. So expect those obstacles. Prepare for the what if. What if the what if never happens? That's fine. I'm still prepared because something will happen. Something will happen, and it will, right? And then on top of that, GSD, get stuff done. Make moves, make lists and cross stuff off those lists every single day. And then, of course, know your numbers. When I start to think about knowing your numbers and the fact that victorious warriors plan first and then win first and then go to war, I think about another Sun Tzu quote. The general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations. The numbers are critical. The numbers are important. The numbers will tell us. Are you tracking your numbers? And if you don't know how to track your numbers, that's fine. It's fine. I'm happy to show you how. Send me a text, set up a time to talk. I'll walk you through the things you need to know. You just have to track a couple numbers. And listen, you might be surprised. We're not talking about tracking your balance sheet and income statement numbers. Those are important. But if there was a list of 20 numbers, all of those reports give us 4 numbers. You're missing some other critical operational numbers, the magic numbers that indicate the health of the business like that. They just indicate it like that. You just know by looking at it. That tells me a couple of things. It tells me that's a good number or that's a problem number. And if it's a problem number, I lift up the lid and I look underneath it. I'm like, well, there's a whole bunch of problems here. And I go look for the first problem and then the second problem and the third problem. Then you know what I do? I go solve those problems. That's what I do as a business owner. And I hope you do the same. This episode is about wisdom. This episode's about brains, not brawn. I want you to work smarter, not just harder. So thank you, Ryan, for joining us here. Listen, at the end of the show, I've got a specific training segment. It's actually another case study. It's a case study from one of you, the audience, who sent your homework back, crazy enough. And so I'm going to share that homework with you here today. Of course, the names will be changed to protect the innocent, but I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it by looking inside the mind of another audience member and their homework that they sent back without me even asking for it. It's great. They sent it back to me and I'm like, hey, this is good stuff. So we're going to share that here today. All right, let's get to the interview with Ryan. We'll see you on the other side. Mr. Ryan Englin, how are you?
I am fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been like a year since I've seen you.
It's been a while.
But the people have spoken.
Yeah?
Do you know what the people said?
No. Tell me.
They said, we downloaded Ryan's episode a lot. And so I thought I should call Ryan back and have him on here again since people liked you before.
There you go.
This is your chance to unredeem yourself and have this one be the, low on the viewing.
That way people would go to the other one and go, this one's much better.
Yeah, the other one was much better. Yeah, his early work was his best yes. work. Yeah, that album was way better than this new one.
Yeah, it's always that way, right? The sequels are always worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just listening to one of my favorite bands, and I think they just kept getting better all the time. I was listening to when I worked out today, and I never thought of them as workout music, but it was good.
Who's that?
You may not know them, the Tragically Hip.
I do not.
Yeah, that gave a whole bunch of people my exact age and location just by saying that.
I've noticed that since I've moved to well, I guess I'm in the Mideast because I'm in Tennessee. I'm not quite the Midwest.
Oh, you're like in Trampled by Turtles territory.
Yeah, and that's what I'm learning is on this side of the country, people really get into the local bands.
Yeah.
When I was in Arizona, it was Goo Goo Dolls. That was the local band.
Oh,
well, everybody knows them, right?
But
now I'm dating myself, right?
That's okay. That's okay. Somebody's got to date you.
There you
go. Hey, Ryan Englin, you're here today to talk to us about all things people. And, when is people not an issue for us as contractors?
Right? Best thing we have in our business is our people. And the most frustrating thing we have in our business is our people.
Is our people. Yeah. So today you and I are going to be talking about hiring mistake horror stories in which you will share stories of some hiring mistakes, but also obviously solutions for getting around that and things people can do on their own to, use your wisdom and experience for their own businesses, for their own contracting companies.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let me ask you this question. Ryan Englin, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
Well, people have told me that I'm pretty good at helping the contractors figure out this people issue that we have. So, I've been doing this for a long time, but I grew up in the trades. My dad was an operator.
Okay. Of what?
Yeah. So he was in manufacturing. So he was an electrician. He was a plumber. He was a mechanical guy. He did all that stuff. Yeah. And so he had his own, he was in partnership in his plant. And so I got to grow up around all those trades and I got to see all the guys that he had bring in and it was awesome. I love those guys. But then I also saw something happen with my dad that happens to most contractors is the business owns them. They can't go on vacation. They can't get away. They can't go to sleep at night. And now, like, I'll never forget when my dad brought home the brick phone. Remember those brick phones?
Yeah.
Like the big giant thing?
Like they were the first phones they made that the military hadn't painted green. Because before that, they were all right.
But he was the cool kid on the block now because he had that. And he said, and I remember getting older. I'm like, you do realize that's just a tether. Like, that's all that was.
Yeah.
You thought the business owned you before you had the brick phone. Now it really owns you. But our businesses, it's so much easier for our businesses to own us now because we're connected to this thing all the time, you know?
Yeah. 24/7.
And I run into a lot of guys that they get to that point where they start thinking about retirement. And they're like, yeah, if I just had a team of people that could run this without me, if I could just sell it, but I can't get the valuation I want because I'm the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was people like my dad and all those other contractors, entrepreneurs out there that just struggle to build real high quality teams so they can get out of the business and eventually have something to sell. Or if it's going really well, just collect some royalties on it, you know?
Yeah. Keep it running for cash flow, right? Yeah. Or pass it to your kids or sell it to your management team. Absolutely. But, you know, I use the analogy a lot. Like, if you're going to buy your kid a car, you're not going to buy them the worst hunk of junk out there, unless you want to work on it with your kid. You know, that's different though. You're still going to make it the best thing it can be, right? Yeah. You're going to tinker with that car and make it great, or you're going to buy your kid a car with airbags, ABS. You know, you want safety, right?
Yeah.
So for the dads out there and the moms who are building a business now, thinking my kid's going to take it over, why do you want to give them a broken business? Right? And I'll say the kids listening, and you know, you and I know kids could be up to 40, 45, 50 years old.
Yeah.
Still working. What's the name of the new king of England now? Prince, I guess he's King Charles now.
I have no idea.
He was Prince Charles. Yeah. So like Queen Elizabeth died, right? But he'd been Prince Charles forever. So anyways, I called him the longest running assistant manager in history. So those of you who have 45 or 50-year-old kids who are ready to take over and spread their wings, you still want to give them a working business that they're not going to be tied to all the time. So your grandkids can see their parents.
Well, you know what I find happens is those parents that are running the business, when it's all on them, they're almost sheltering their kids from it. So the kids don't know how to make the tough decisions. They don't know how to deal with it when there's a downturn. Right. Mom and dad's always taking care of it. So you get these 50-year-old kids that are like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird to say 50-year-old kid, but I think we all understand what we mean here.
40-year-old kid.
40-year-old, 35. Kid. Yeah. And working hard. And you know, at some point though, working hard stops working. And I find there's a tipping point, especially on the people thing. I wonder if you see the same thing. Maybe out of frustration, people will say to you, hey, Ryan, this business was easier when it's just me and one guy. Maybe I don't need to grow. Maybe I'll go backwards. And some people do that, and that's what they want. That's fine. But that's not the answer for most people, because that business, you end up selling the truck and some hand tools, and you just shut her down, throw away your business cards, you know?
Yeah. It's not even lifestyle business at that point.
No, it's, you know, it's a job.
It's a job.
It's a job. Yeah. Which is fair. And that's fair, right? I mean, I had that when I was, you know, I did small home renos and painting and things like that. It was a job.
Yeah.
I was working real hard to try and make money. But let's go back to your sort of sweet spot and talk about some of these hiring mistake horror stories. And if you don't mind, I mean, you can't use the name of the company, but paint a picture, you know, the size of the company, the revenue, what part of the world they're in, so that people, you know, can see in their mind who we're talking about.
Well, you know, I want to talk about something you just mentioned, which was do I go back to when it was me in a truck? Right? Yeah. And I find out it seems like every couple of months I hear a new term for it, right? You know, there's Chuck in a truck and pickup and Vinny in a van, whatever, right?
That's I've never heard Vinny in a van.
And I talk about it in my book where you're out there, you've got a job for yourself. Like you just took the leap, you went and got a truck, you got a couple of customers. You're like, I could really make a good living doing this. And then you find out you're really good at selling it. And so you sell some more, you sell some more, you sell some more. And then your wife's like, you hire somebody because I'm tired of not seeing you.
Right.
So what do? You hire somebody. And you might have been working 60, 70 hours a week before. Now you hired somebody who was supposed to save you time. And now you're working 90 hours a week fixing all the issues they're creating for you.
Ouch.
And
I think you just nailed it.
what I found out is it's because no one ever taught these contractors how to hire. No one ever taught them this. What we do is we teach this stuff. And there's not a lot of people teaching it. There's talk, have a foosball table and a cereal bar and nap pods and unlimited PTO. And that's how you'll recruit the best people.
Jeez.
But you still don't know how to do it. And that's what we do is we teach. And so what I found was that first hire you usually make, it's usually an old former coworker. It's a friend. It's a brother-in-law, right? It's something like that. And what you did is you hired them out of convenience. But the issue is here, you never hired someone that would fit the way you behave or the way you treat your customers.
Yeah.
And so now you're constantly solving problems because they don't act the way you act. They don't treat your people the way you treat your people. And so it creates conflict in the organization. And when you dig down into it, it's a culture misalignment is really the issue. And we do it
fancy
all
words
the time.
for they're not an accurate representation of the way you would do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's fixable.
So
that's fixable.
It is.
As long as you go do it on purpose. You just can't randomly say some magical employee is going to walk through the door. Nobody, I wonder if people understand this. There's no magic pool of employees out there that come in fully trained, understanding the culture. They look good in your uniform. They know what to say and when to say it. They know how to use this tool and fix that. It doesn't exist.
Well, I would disagree. I would argue that they do. They're called your competition.
Okay.
Like every entrepreneur wants to hire someone just like them. Yeah. Why can't I hire someone just like me? Well, because just like you has the shop across the street. Right?
And he's hiring too.
Yeah, and he's hiring too.
And he's hiring
probably
too.
Taking your guys because maybe he's figured this culture thing out a little bit better than you have.
Yeah. So let me scream back to you and I what somebody's screaming at their, I'll say radio, their speaker right now.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a trades guy. You want me to learn how to hire people? What are you talking about? I just need guys that are good on the tools.
I get it. Then go run a crew. You want to be an entrepreneur. You signed up for this. There's some things you're going to have to learn how to do until you can hire the people to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You're running a business.
Yeah. You're an entrepreneur now.
I'm glad you said that. This show is about the business of the contracting business. It's not about the business of roofing or remodels or kitchen cabinets. It's not. It's about the business of business. And I'm glad you said that because I want people to listen to this show and be moving closer towards being businessman, business person who just happens to be a contractor.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to be,
Yeah.
So give us a couple of these. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've shared this a lot on past other podcasts I've been on and stuff. If someone had told me how much I had to know about the financials in a business before I became an entrepreneur and really helped me understand it, I probably would have never signed up. I would have gone to work for someone else. All the insurance and the payroll and the financial statements, all that stuff. I can't stand it. But what I learned is I had a mentor that was like, you're going to learn it. And for 12 months, just grilled it into me. Every time I saw him, he's like, let's bring up those financial statements. Let's look at them. Let's talk through them. What are you seeing? What are you not seeing? And I'm like, I hate this. Yeah. Well, here I am. I mean, that was 6 years ago. Doesn't bother me at all now because I know it. And
now you know and you understand the impact. But that's the thing. You have to have somebody to show you through it. One of the things that I find is that a lot of people didn't grow up at a business kitchen table, dinner table.
Yeah.
Nobody talked to them about this stuff. And that's why it all seems like a secret. Mm-hmm. And, you look around your town and you're like, well, how come the Joneses on the other side of town, their business is booming? Like, what do they know? They have magic clients. They're always doing profitable jobs. They just bought another pickup. They just bought another loader. Is that a new trailer I just saw? Did they just expand their building? They have secrets. No, they don't. No, they don't. What they probably worked on is inside their mind. Yeah, I'm not saying they have a business coach, but somehow they've got direction and systems and processes that work. And that's all you have to work yourself towards. It's not impossible.
Yeah. It's either that or they got debt coming out of everywhere. Right.
And that debt has to be serviced by something.
Yeah. But I always tell people, stop comparing what everybody else is doing and just go run your own race.
Yeah.
Because if we just sit there and we look at all the great hires that person's getting, you have no idea. Oh, they're paying more an hour. I don't know how they're affording it. They're probably not. Right? Like, I mean, stop comparing and just go run your own race. And that's what we talk about. So I'll share with you some of these horror stories.
Yeah.
And I think that the first one, a lot of people can relate to. And it's hiring that person that you thought was going to be your replacement, who you thought was going to be that. And so we work with a lot of small contractors, and 25, 30 employees seems to be, we have a lot that are in that space. We have some that are even smaller, 8, 10 employees, but usually we see is that owner wants to replace themselves right around that 20, 25 employee mark. They're finally like, hey, if I could just have someone to do all the stuff I do, I can go sell, or I can go run the business, or I can work on process. And they were a mechanical contractor, small mechanical contractor, HVAC. And they thought they found the perfect person because their resume said so. Now, I want to be clear here. There are 3 types of resumes in this world. There used to only be 2.
Okay.
Now there are 3.
I love this already.
The first type of resume, written by a professional resume writer. Embellishments galore. They fudge stuff. They make up numbers. They're like, so what was the return on investment in those things that you did? Oh, I don't know. Oh, how's 372% sound? Sounds good to me. They'll never be able to verify it, right? That's professional resume writers.
Yeah.
The second type is a resume written by someone that has no clue how to write a resume.
Oh.
That's the majority of people.
Right.
They don't teach this stuff. Indeed, ask you some questions, and so you answer the best you can. You have no idea if you're saying anything good.
Yeah.
And then here's the third type. And this is probably the most accurate type of resume, but also the most false, is that written by AI.
Oh, I just hadn't even thought that. People are having it done by AI now.
I've got a video I posted on LinkedIn about a year ago when ChatGPT just came out. And I went to Amazon's website and I said, oh, that looks like I have no idea what this job is.
Yeah.
But I'm going to see if I can get ChatGPT to put together a resume for me. It's a 12-minute video of me just typing in prompts into ChatGPT. Says, hey, go check out this job description.
Yeah.
And can you write a resume for me that pretty much guarantees me to get the job? And so it pulls keywords out of the job description. It pulls data. I was like, I need more numbers in here. And it goes back and it just makes up all of my metrics.
Oh,
based on what they're looking for in the job description. And the only thing I had to do was put in the company name and the date. That's it. Everything else was done for me by AI. So
you got to watch for those.
Oh, I actually say if there's very few roles where I would say you need a resume. Very few.
Well, especially for us in the trades. I want to see a guy use the tools. We're talking in the field.
In the field, yep, your front line, but even in the office. Now, maybe you need a bookkeeper, right? There's a trust factor there, so you want to see some history. If you have a resume writer,
engineer, technical drafters, those guys need resumes. I'd love to see
guys with certifications, schooling, education, that kind of stuff. But I always say this: if you want the perfect resume, you're only going to get it if you're hiring someone who's a resume writer for you.
Okay, I see.
Right? I mean, you can't expect a drafter or a bookkeeper to write the perfect resume. Sure, they're an office job, but that's not what they do for a living. They're not pros at that. They're more likely to hire the expert, right? The professional resume writer.
Yeah.
So anyways, mechanical contractor hires off the resume, thought it was perfect. This person was like the COO. I forget exactly what it was, but they were like COO for another company that they knew. And they're like, this is awesome. So hire the guy, comes in. Day one, I have ideas. Have you ever hired the idea guy?
Yeah.
I have ideas. I know how to fix all of our problems. And you're sitting there going, do you even know what our problems are yet?
Oh, yeah. I'd rather day one guy says, sounds wrong. I'd rather him say, I'm not going to do anything for a month.
Yes.
I'm going to watch. I'm going to listen. I'm going to look for reports.
You know what the difference between those two guys are?
What's
Besides
that?
their mindset is the way they behave.
How so?
It's behavior. One guy's in, I'm going to come and change everything. I need to be the hero. I'm going to do it all. The other guy says, let me just watch.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys still be the hero for a while. And then I'll come in and I'll provide suggestions. You see, when we stop looking at resumes as a way to hire somebody and we start looking at the way someone behaves, the way they think, the way they communicate, we'll make better hires every day. That's a big part of what we teach. And so anyways, as you can imagine, I think this person lasted maybe 45 days before the owner of the company had the guts to fire them. But they did it all exclusively off the resume. And I'm like, no, this is why that culture fit.
Right.
How they behave, why they do what they do, where they want to go with the company is so important. And that's the part they never teach.
No, and it's really, listen, if I haven't defined my own culture, how can I expect somebody to match it?
You know, I ask people all the time, everybody says, oh, I can't find any good people. Can't find any good people. And you would think they would say, oh, they can't turn a wrench. They can't read the gauges. They can't do this. They can't do that. That's never what they say. Every time I've ever asked this of an audience, can't get them to show up on time. Can't get them to treat the customer with respect.
Right.
Can't get them to clean up the job site. Can't get them to not, give lip to the foreman. Like, that's what they say. Everything that has to do with whether we hire a good person or a bad person, 100% of the time has to do with how they behave, which is culture.
Interesting. Well, how do you check for that then in the beginning?
Well, you just said it. First, you got to define your own. Like, you got to get really clear on who you are. And so what we talk about is 3 things: how you behave, where you're going. Like, where's this bus that you're on? We've all heard about the metaphorical bus that is our business, right? Right people, right seats, get them on the bus. The bus will take them. Well, we got to make sure that we've got the right people on that bus who are excited to be on the bus and where we're going. Because when that bus breaks down, and it will break down, your business will run into issues. They don't get off the bus. They stay on and they're like, let's get the bus back on the road because I'm excited about where we're going. And then the third one, and this was probably the hardest one. It's actually the first thing we take our clients through. It's the hardest one is, why do you do what you do? Like, why this work? Especially on the days you don't want to get out of bed and do it. What drives you so much to say, I don't want to do this job today. I don't want to run this business today, but you get out of bed and you do it anyways. And we call that purpose. Right. Why do you do what you do, even on the days you don't want to do it?
That's hard for people to define, especially.
That's why it's the first one we do. Because after that,
and you've got exercise. I mean, you have ways of thinking people through those.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've got a different approach to the same thing. And I want to understand, tell me the people in your company that have made a positive difference. And we list all those people. And then next, tell me how they made a difference. What did they do? And we list all those things. And then we just sit back and we look at it and say, well, what's the same? Tell me what's the same and what's different. And it starts to, this sounds like something I read somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I came up with it on my own. Is what I value in others is what my values see. Right?
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely true.
Like if I keep writing down in this description of past employees or past people I knew that had the right impact on my company, it said, oh, they were always on time. They finished work on time. They showed up on time. Well, pretty clearly, I care about time.
Yeah.
Because it's on the top of my mind. And so, okay, great. So now when I do this interview with Ryan, we're going to talk about time.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even take into account the interview skills, because I'm sure you've heard bad interviews, right?
I've heard some bad interviews.
Here's one of the worst interview questions. I don't want to derail your story here, but this is how you would ask it the wrong way. Ryan, we really care about time here. Time management is really critical to our company. How do you feel about time and time management? Well, I just told you the answer. So all you got to go is, give me give me a cracker. Time, love time. Oh, I'm all about time.
We had a client years ago. He's like, you know what? It was one of these contractor coaching firms or whatever. You've heard those, some big ones out there. And they taught him how to interview.
Okay. Well, I didn't do this, but okay. Yeah.
No, it was one of the big ones where they got like 300 coaches or whatever and like thousands of clients. Anyways, and he goes, here's my interview sheet. And he shows me his interview sheet. You know what it says right at the top?
What?
Spend the first 25 to 30 minutes of the interview telling them everything about why they need to join your company. And I looked at him and I said, can we just rip this up and throw it away? He goes, well, it doesn't work. I go, I know why it doesn't work.
Yeah. Because
just gave them the answers to the test
everything.
For 25 to 30 minutes. Stop it. They are here to sell you. You are not here to sell them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we, when we look at the behaviors and the values, one of the things that we have to be really careful of is this is what I found is that if we go out and we assess the current team, if they haven't done a good job hiring and a lot of those people aren't the right fit, it can be a real depressing moment when they're like, none of my people have what I want right now.
Right.
And so we've had to learn to work through that too.
That's hard to face, but I want to tell everybody it's fixable.
It is.
Do you know why it's fixable? This is my company. That's the explanation. That's it. This is my company. And that's how it's going to be. And so some people are going to make it and some people aren't. And that's horrible and sad. And it's the way it goes.
One of the challenges that I find with owners, in particular owners, is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what walk of life, what industry, it doesn't matter. They love people. They can look at someone and see all this potential. Right. And they can see this opportunity to fix them and to coach them and mentor them and guide them. And they want that. And so a lot of times these owners, they look around, they see broken everywhere. They're like, I can fix it. You're right. It is fixable, Dominic. And I can do it. I can fix these people. And more often than not, that's not the right answer.
Yeah. Right. I need to have somebody that I want to fix.
Yeah. And that goes back to culture alignment.
Yeah. I think the other thing that you just reminded me of is somebody, again, who's yelling at the radio. I'll just say the radio or whatever they're listening to the podcast on. But you don't understand. I hired the best that I could find and it still wasn't what I wanted. Well, you still don't have a people problem. You have a recruiting problem. Yeah. Yeah. I'm about to make a hire today. Like after this interview, I'm hiring somebody. And I'm in the really fortunate position that I've got 3 front runners for the same position. So my chances of making a bad decision are low. I could still do it. Trust me. I could I can mess this up for sure.
I've been there. Guilty.
Right. So I don't want to pretend. I don't ever want to pretend that I have all the answers, but I'm willing to sit back and say, I worked hard to create a situation where I had 3, actually I wanted 2 strong contenders at the end and a third one sort of floated in at the end. So I feel really good because now I can make logical decisions, not emotional decisions. I can put everybody on paper and say, this plus minus, this plus minus. But anybody out there who's saying you don't understand my market, I can't find good people, is probably not attracting and recruiting enough people to make the right decision.
Well, and I was going to say that was a big breakthrough for me about a decade ago when I started doing this and built the corporate hiring system. Was I realized that recruiting is not an HR problem. Recruiting is not a business problem. Recruiting is not an operations problem. Recruiting is a marketing problem. And when you think about recruiting as a marketing problem to be solved by a marketing team, what would marketing do? Step 1, I've been through so many marketing experts, right? Tell me about your ideal employee. Tell me about your ideal customer. That's one of the first questions every marketer will ask you.
Yeah.
How long has it been since you sat down and said, let me jot down what my ideal employee would look like? Let me talk about everything. What do they like? What do they dislike? What do they hang out? What hobbies do they have? Right. All the things that you would normally do for identifying your ideal customer, do that for your ideal employee. Get really clear on who they are. And then when you take a step back and you go, whoa, I can envision that person. I can see them now when I walk by the street. Now what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your marketing team and say, now let's create a brand, an employer brand that is attractive to that ideal employee. And you won't struggle with getting good people anymore.
No, you'll probably have people asking to work there.
We had a client just last week. They said, we don't even have jobs posted anymore. We haven't had a job posted in weeks. And people are still getting resumes from all the work we've been doing saying, can I come work there? They're like, they're good, high quality people. She said, I want to hire all of them, but I don't have any open positions right now. And I was like, that's an okay problem to have. And we can fix that problem too.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're a contractor. Just so anybody thinks, oh yeah, they're Google. No, they're a contractor.
Yeah. There's things you can do to stand out from the market. And again, though, Ryan, it comes back to, I want to be a business person who just happens to be a contractor.
Yeah.
It's a way of thinking. It's listening to this show.
Yeah.
Or, reading your book, like you taking the proactive steps to be a business person who takes in that kind of information and knowing, look, you're not going to get it right the first time. I'm still not getting it right, but I'm going to keep working at it and I'm going to get better and better and better all the time.
Oh, I'm going to be vulnerable for a second.
I
do this for a living and I still don't get it right.
Yeah.
Guess what I have? I have a pair of rose-colored glasses too. And I put them on during the interview. I'm like, oh, I see so much potential and opportunity.
Yeah.
So what I did was I hired people who don't get emotionally attached. I have people on my team now. And I said, you know what? You don't get emotionally attached to these people like I do. You go interview them. And if they pass the muster following our process, then I'll talk to them. And that's been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
so many nuances to it. Because it's, there's so many things. I mean, listen, even on the technical side, you've got to have some test to know a guy knows how to read a tape measure or calibrate something you guys always calibrate that everybody in your industry should know how to do. Yeah. So you still have to have those technical tests, but then you have to have the people test. And I know that I can train somebody on technical skills all day long. Mm-hmm. That's why those technical skills are written out in a textbook somewhere or in a manual. But I can't teach you attitude. I can't teach you what I wish you had learned at your dinner table growing up as a kid. Like I can't do that part. Yeah. You got to come with that. Right. And so attitude's a big one for me. I have to look at the attitude. Have to.
I agree. In fact, I share the same thing. I can teach you to turn a wrench. I can teach you to read the gauges. I can teach you to operate the equipment. I can't teach you to get out of bed on time. I can't teach you to talk to people with respect. Could I do that given enough time? Probably. I'm not here to teach you this stuff over years. Now, that said, I will share this, and this is something that I think a lot more people in the industry are starting to accept now, that we have an entire generation of workers who believe, rightfully so, that as employers, we don't care about them. They're not important to us. They're dispensable. Right. The second that somebody thought it would be a good idea to divide workers into essential and non-essential during the pandemic, whoever thought that was a brilliant idea, we need to take that back because
we know who does all that stuff. Yeah.
But we've got an entire group of people that are like, well, I'm in a non-essential industry. They don't care about me. And there were a lot of employers that proved that during the pandemic, that they don't care. So you have an entire generation of workers that think the employers don't care. We also have an entire generation of workers that grew up on social media. This is going to be my soapbox, then I'll get off it. But grew up on social media. Half of them growing up without a dad in the home. Half of them growing up without a mom that was there to support them. So parents were working or split or whatever. So the schools and social media raise these kids. I personally believe that if we want to solve the labor crisis that is in this with the new generation coming in the workforce, we have to put on that parent hat for a little bit and say, hey, we're going to teach these kids how to be adults. We have to take on that responsibility because everybody else has let them down. So when you're bringing in that young generation who doesn't want to get to work on time or doesn't know how to have a respectful conversation, you can either choose to go the way of the newspaper because the world has changed. Or you can get on board and say, you know what? We're going to teach some of these kids some life skills and we're going to create the most loyal workforce there ever been. And we are going to benefit the entire industry because odds are they're not going to work with us forever. They're going to move on and go work somewhere else.
Let's assume they're not going to.
Yeah. They're not going to go work with us forever, but they'll probably stay in the industry if they like it. So now what we're doing is we're just leveling up the workforce inside the industry.
Yeah.
That's the mindset we need to take if we want to solve this problem.
And so I still want to get inside. I love it, but I want to get inside the head of them. I want to get inside the head of the people listening. They're like, Dom, Ryan, we got 6 staff or we're at 4. I just think the world's going to be different at 6. I'm just trying to grow. I need another technician or I need somebody in the office. Yeah. Where do I start? I wish it was simpler. Well, first of all, it's not simpler, but by listening to this stuff, you start to line up the things that are important. And I want to come back again and maybe I'll get you to counter me on this, but how do I find people with the right attitude? Because once we've got the right attitude, then we can train them on the other stuff. What do I do in the market to make sure I'm getting the best attitude people through the door?
So I'll give you I talk a lot about the personal relationships that we have because it's so much more relatable than work relationships. But think about this for a second. If I was looking for someone to date me, or if I was looking for getting married, right? And I had this idea of the perfect woman, and I had a list of all of her qualities, and I had a list of all the things she wanted out of life, whether or not she wanted kids, what she liked to do for vacations, and everything else. And I wrote that down. I looked at it. And I said, this is her. She's the one. I got to go find her. Right? This is what we all do. Got to go find that perfect technician. I want you to turn around and look in the mirror, because this is what I would have to do, and go, is this woman that I'm looking for, is she going to be interested in me?
Yeah, right. Am I what she's looking for?
I might have 10 standards, but I'm a full-on 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no way she is going to come down to my level. So what do I have to do? I have to go to her level and say, how do I become the man that this ideal woman that I have drawn out, that I have pictured, how do I become the man that she would want? And we need to do the exact same thing in business. You want that great technician? It's going to check all the boxes around skills, but also check all the boxes around behavior, attitude, mindset, communication.
Yeah.
Those are rock star employees. And does a rock star want to come work for you or not? And if you're struggling to find them, my guess would be you need to take a good, hard look in the mirror and say, I'm not high enough caliber as an employer for a rock star to want to leave someone else. Because remember, rock stars are employed.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You're asking them to quit someone else to come work with you. And when they look at you and what they see and what they hear and what they know, you look like a downgrade to them. Now, I know there's someone right now that's just getting ready to turn this off because they don't like hearing this.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, this is the first thing we do is we say, hey, you know what? Let's pretend that I'm Joe HVAC Tech. I'm going to do a Google search on you and see what I find. And if I don't like what I see, or worse, the most of them, I don't find anything other than an Indeed job post.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep looking.
I know, especially with that younger generation, it's that they need to see things there. They need to see us show up.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's, you know, there's so many ideas for content that, and listen, everybody listening, we understand we're all coming from a different place. There's some of you out there that have one, it's just you as the employee. And so you're trying to hire your second person. Another person listening has 15 employees. You're trying to hire your 16. Yeah. But if you're trying to hire younger people, you should probably have some videos on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, just showing your machinery in process, or unloading your digger, your backhoe, like so they can relate to it and maybe show their friends and brag a little bit and say, you know, that's the trailer we just got. I told that thing around town. Like, very simple, but that drives those people to a little bit closer to wanting to work with you. And then you've got a nice shirt on. It doesn't take much to get branded gear, or just hats are cheap.
Yeah.
But you got to have something to represent who you are. And by the way, I said hats are cheap, but quality hats are cheaper.
Oh yeah, because the ROI
quality business card,
so much better,
right? Let's say business cards. How many times have you ever? This is old now, but because we don't hand out business cards. But imagine handing somebody a flimsy business card that looks perforated at the edges because you printed it on your own home thing. Or
do we still do that?
Well, some people. Well, people don't even hand out business cards. That's why I'm using the example.
Yeah.
But somebody comes and sits down and you hand them a high quality business card. Say, hi, my name's Dominic. Welcome to the interview. And they're like, oh, like you just tell by feeling the thing. This is that kind of place. That business card tells you there's quality.
Yeah.
Right. The hat, that beautiful, you've got a really nice shirt on. It's not just some cheap, poorly put together shirt. That tells me the quality.
Give the guy a Richardson 112, right? And he walks out of there wearing that hat because he loves those Richardson hats. Guess what? You got a walking, talking billboard now about how great your interview was, even if you don't hire that guy. But I'll tell you that people don't think about the quality of the interaction that they're having. And it's not just have a nice business card. Imagine standing up and giving the guy a handshake, greeting him at the door when he walks in. But what do most of these guys do? Oh, hey, come on back. Like, or we could call them by name. Like, let's show the people respect. We want that from them. We need to become who we want to attract. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And if we can't do that, then I'm just gonna be real with you. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for a long time.
And so I want to urge everybody that no matter what, all you have to do is make small changes to however you're hiring people today. Just make small changes. If you've got a 1-interview hiring process, move it to a 2-interview hiring process. And that's easy to do.
Yeah.
You know, if they show up on your job site, you're like, show me how you lay out a floor. Okay, that's good. Call me tomorrow before 10 o'clock. That's the test. That's the second interview. Call me before 10 o'clock. If they call you tomorrow before 10, then you know that they can take instruction. They're still interested. There's a whole bunch of things wrapped up in that. If they don't call you tomorrow by 10 or before 10, they don't get the job. I only asked you to do one thing, right? There's lots of little tests we can put in place to see that the person we're hiring has the right attitude. Technical skill, it's fine, right? Yeah, I know you can lay fence lines for miles and miles, but I need to know your attitude's right. So come up with an easy way to test people for attitude.
Yeah. I would say list the behaviors that you want and then come up with a way to see that in action.
Right.
You know, like we talk about time, a lot of it. On time is a big deal. Punctuality is something that everybody wants.
Yeah. And how do you test for time? Like, what do you do to poke at that time question?
So we do 2 things. Number 1, we put it in the job description. Punctuality is super important to us. In fact, early is on time and on time is late. So we drop the seed there. And then when we schedule the interview, we say, hey, your interview is at noon, but I need you to be here by 11:50.
So you tell them.
Oh, we give them the answers to the test.
Yeah.
Because, and here's the thing, and here's the reason why. I think that when we get too cryptic and we kind of don't give them what we want, that carries through once they're an employee. And guess what happens? They don't do what we want because we were too cryptic and didn't tell them what we wanted.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of clarity. Like, be so incredibly specific that there's zero opportunity for them to misunderstand.
Right. And then what if they do? What if you said to me, hey, Dom, the interview is at noon, but you need to be here at 11:50. Yeah. And I cruise in at noon or a minute after.
Well, that's the first part of the interview. So depending on how many, and we put points to everything in an interview, so it's all objective, but that's first question on the test, you know, and that's worth a lot of points.
It has to be worth a lot of points.
And I'll tell you the other thing. I want to go back to something you said though, before I forget. You had mentioned create some videos, do some marketing stuff. I want to share something that is incredibly simple because you don't have to do it. If you're the owner, you don't have to do this.
Sure.
Which means it'll be more likely to get done, right?
Yeah.
You've all got Yelp reviews and Google reviews and Angie reviews, and you've got all these employee reviews, customer reviews. Why don't you have employee reviews? Why don't you go instead of getting another customer testimonial about how great the work is and how great it was working with you, go get an employee testimonial video. Ask one of your team members, ask that technician, hey, can you record 60 seconds about what it's like to work here? I want to put it on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
That's going to go way further than the let me show you the loader that we're working with. Because now they're like, that's a real person. They're telling me how it is. I don't see his boss in the frame. This doesn't look edited. This might be legit.
Yeah, actually, I'm okay with poor delivery when it's a legitimate, when it's a real person talking about their experience. It doesn't have to be scripted. And
they
don't have to look like they're in the witness stand.
That guy talks like I do.
Yeah,
I could be friends with that guy. That's what everybody wants at work, is friends. That's a whole nother topic, but just so you know, people want friendships at work. So if you're not creating opportunities for that, they need that. But I just want to share that, like, employee testimonials is one of the easiest things for us to go get. Now, if you go to your people and they're like, I got nothing good to say, well, that's a different issue. We got to solve that. But go put that stuff online. Go share that. That's what people want to see, what's real. And it's so easy to do because, like I said, you don't have to do it.
There's ways to do it, which is you're an expert in these ways to do it.
Yeah. Let's get people excited about it.
I want to hear this story for a second. One more horror story about the cabinet in the office.
Oh,
and then we'll move towards wrapping this up. Tell me this horror story that you ran across. I wonder how many of us have had this.
Yeah. So I'll share the story. I know what happened. So contractor, electrical contractor. This was this was probably 6-7 years ago. It was before the pandemic. That's how I measure my life now. So it used to be before kids, after kids. Now it's before pandemic, after pandemic. But it's before the pandemic. So this was like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And small company, 40 maybe employees. And it was time for an operations manager. Owner had to get out of managing operations. They had a service manager. They had an install construction manager, but they needed someone to manage both of those people. So puts out the ad, got a referral. We all love employee referrals. This was a referral. So already this woman gets, bumped up to the front of the list. She's a referral from someone I trust.
Right.
And she comes in, and this was back in the days when I used to sit on some interviews. And she walks in, and I could just tell by the way the owner reacted that he really liked the way she looked. And I'll tell you, I've learned this. We all have our biases. We like to hire people. This is everybody. And in fact, there was a talk that actually showed the data that we tend to not hire people that we consider ugly.
Oh, you mean you liked her like that? Okay.
He liked her like that.
I see.
He liked the way she looked.
I see. Okay.
And so he thought she was very attractive. And I mean, she was competent. Like you could tell that she had done this kind of stuff before. I don't remember if she'd done it for a contractor or not. It's a long time ago, but she was competent. Like you could tell that she could probably run this and everything else. But because he was blinded by how good she looked, there were certain red flags that came up in the interview that he just ignored. One of them was, I think she had like 4 jobs in the last 2 years as an operations manager.
Okay, that's a red flag.
Like if you're an apprentice or you're a plumber, or, you've only been doing it a couple of years, I could see you bouncing around jobs looking for the right crews and teams and stuff. But when you're at that level, almost C-level, and you bounce around. So anyways, like a lot of contractors, he enjoyed drinking, and he actually had a cabinet of alcohol in his office, and they'd celebrate, they'd win new jobs. They'd have a great weekend. There was no bad reviews. Like they'd find reasons to celebrate all the time.
Sure.
So one day he goes in, and this was probably like 3-4 months in. And real quick, she is actually not performing as well as they thought. There was issues. Customers were complaining about things. The service manager was like, hey, I got issues with her. Like she's not following through on this. She told me I'd have this. I don't. He comes in, and it was a bottle of Grey Goose and was empty. And he knows it wasn't empty.
Okay.
Like he's looking through his alcohol thing, and he's like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
So he thought, okay, someone stole a bottle and, took his bottle, and that's what he thought. Took his bottle, they put an empty bottle in there, maybe he would notice. A couple weeks go by, and he's standing upstairs right next to where the office manager is. He was talking to his accountant, because she was right there too. His bookkeeper was right there. And he's like, why does it smell like alcohol in here? What is going on? And she's like, I don't know. And they're looking around. And this operations manager had a Yeti cup on her.
A Yeti. Oh, okay. One of those big.
32 ounce Yeti cup.
Oh, no.
And as far as they could tell, it was straight vodka. And they had found a flask of vodka under her desk. And so she'd been drinking on the job all this time.
Oh.
And so, and post-mortem, right? We all do post-mortems. We're contractors. We all do them, right? Sorry.
The end of job report. We call it the end of job report here. Everybody that listens to this show does an end of job report.
Ryan,
yes. We're all, it's
they do something with it too, right?
Yeah.
They don't just do the report, pencil whip it, and put it in a filing cabinet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I had to throw that one in there. But afterwards, so a lot of times when we have key hires that don't work out in the first 3 to 6 months, one of the things we like to do is we call it postmortem. Let's find out what did we do? What did we miss? Or did we miss anything? I mean, life happens, right? Sometimes people just go through a nasty divorce or get sick. There's nothing you can do about it. But what did we miss? And when we went back and we looked at all the red flags, all the behaviors, you could see the addictive behaviors, you could see the controlling behaviors, you could see a lot of these things that were completely missed because he liked the way she looked.
Oh, no.
And so what we end up doing is and I actually encourage this. If you have people on your team you trust, let them interview before you. You come in at the end, you take care of it. That way, if you do have biases, somebody else has already vetted the person for you. So anyways, they terminated her right away and she sued them for wrongful termination.
Of course.
It was all really nasty.
Yeah, of course she's going to, right?
Yeah.
No responsibility at all. And yeah.
So,
okay.
And there's so many other stories, but I'm sure we've all heard them. We've all been there. And I just think that the idea here is what I want people to hear is get really clear on who you want. Get really just incredibly clear on how you can actually evaluate them to make sure they are who you want. Yeah. And then when they get there, like I said, I mentioned rock stars before. If you're hiring a rock star employee, treat them like a rock star. Don't just be like, hey, you, new guy, come on, get started.
Yeah.
He's like,
if
I have
you
a
hire
name.
a rock star, that should be the birth of your new culture in your company.
Yeah.
Put a lot of energy in it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ryan, if somebody, this has been great. And I think we could probably continue. Well, I know we could continue on because this is your second time being on the show.
I love this stuff.
How could somebody find you in this big wide world?
Yeah. Easiest place is my website. It's corematters.com. But I'm also available on LinkedIn. And if you don't mind, I got an offer for your listeners.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about my book, Hire Better People Faster. If any of your listeners want to go to my website, corematters.com/free book, got an offer for them. Help me out with the shipping and handling, small fee, and I will sign a book, drop it in the mail, and send it off to you. Just as a thank you for you inviting me on my show, giving back to your listeners. And I believe that the more people that can learn this stuff, the more we can do to just elevate the industry and make it attractive for the next generation.
Yeah. I can tell you love what you do. I can tell.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. And if anybody out there is listening, hey, Ryan, spell your name again so people can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Ryan, R-Y-A-N. Last name is Englin, E-N-G-L-I-N.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, Ryan, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon. Well. What did you learn from Ryan and I talking about the hiring mistake horror stories? Pretty crazy. I mean, I'm sure you have your own horror stories. If you've been in business more than a year, you've seen things that'll make your head shake. I've often said that if a TV show wanted to follow me or any one of my coaches around for a month, it would be the greatest TV show ever. We hear and see the craziest situations that I just can't even make them up sometimes. And they pop up all the time. It's one of our favorite things to talk about when we get together for training as our coaching team. Because there's always lessons in there, but there's also the things we're looking for are early flags, early indicators that maybe the business owner missed or that we saw but didn't take advantage of at the time or take caution of at the time. And then how do we deal with these things as they come up? Because stuff comes up, right? So what's the hiring mistake horror story that you've got? I was talking about one the other night with some friends. I went to do an interview with a lady. She was going to be the bookkeeper for my company. And we found out minutes before the interview that she'd been charged with embezzling $4 million from a Chinese property owner in the same city that I live in. So how do you continue with that interview knowing that she had been charged with embezzlement? And then she had the cojones to go out and apply for a bookkeeping job again. And you know what's crazy? I found that information out. It wasn't hard to find, but you still had to look to find it. But somebody else for sure hired her. And what do you think they did when they got into her company? Do you think she changed her ways and suddenly didn't embezzle another couple $100,000 or $1 million from them? No, that leopard has her spots. But that's only one of my hiring mistake horror stories. We've got many. I'm sure you've got some too. But anyways, Ryan, thank you for joining us for that. Hey, I want to send a thank you to a gentleman who sent me his homework. We have these professional development tools that I offer when they align with the topic, right? And a gentleman by the initials of KC, so I'm going to call him Casey, but his initials are KC, sent me his homework. Crazy. From the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. Now, I want to put this in time context for you because you're going to get the jump on everybody in your industry, in your market. So, if, at the beginning, when I say I want to give you the unfair advantage, this is the unfair advantage. The unfair advantage, I want you to be the first mover on 2025 because I'm recording this right now in September of 2024. So you're going to hear this sometime in October, November, maybe the beginning part of December. And you're going to have a jump on everybody else in your industry who's not even going to think about strategic planning for 2025 until it bonks them on the head. You might see a note for me that I'll do a webinar, get everybody ramped up for 2025, et cetera. But if you grab this Healthy, Wealthy, Wise planner, you've already done your homework. And guess what you will do? You're going to put together a plan and you're going to anticipate your bottlenecks like I talked about at the top of the show. And then you're going to be able to overcome those and you're going to take action just a little bit faster than the guy next to you. And you know that races are won by fractions, and you're going to get that fraction of a leap on somebody else. Anyways, KC sent this homework. Now, I didn't ask him to do it. When people download these professional development tools, they just download them. And I'm like, hey, I hope you get a lot out of it. And, we could tell which ones are the most popular, which ones get downloaded because people call us and have questions. And some of them nobody asks for. So that's fine. We stop talking about them. But the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise planner, it's kind of it just goes along. People always ask for it, but this is cool. I've never had somebody send it back to me. So Casey did his homework, if you will. We don't ask for the homework. I'm just saying he went and did it. And what I always want you to do, or let me do this as your business coach. Here is my clear expectation for you. I want you to, number one, request this professional development tool. It's called the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise planner. That's number one. Number two, I want you to download that. And number three, I want you to go to a coffee shop with a pen, face the corner, order your favorite coffee, put your headphones in and face the wall. And then I want you to fill in the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise planner according to your own personal goals, your own personal bottlenecks. That's the coaching challenge that I put in front of you. Now it's up to you. If you want the accountability from me, then set it up, find a way. It's easy to set an appointment with me. Just text me. As many of you know, it's not hard to get a meeting with me. You've got to be willing to do the work because I am going to challenge you in that meeting to do the work you need to do. If you're not willing to do it, don't set an appointment, but that's fine. But I'm here to help. That's all I want to do. I have the pure intent that I'm here to help others. That's what I want to do. So the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise planner is very simple. It's like a 4 or 5 page document, but the middle page is the work page. The other pages are where I ask you the questions, and then you take that and you answer the questions. And so I want you to imagine a grid in front of you for just simplicity, because we're doing this by audio. Some of you might be watching this as a YouTube video. Imagine a tic-tac-toe, right? Where you've got 3 columns and 3 rows, right? So it's kind of tic-tac-toe. It's stretched because they're rectangles, not squares. But on the left-hand column, it's personal, family, and business. From the left to the right, it's healthy, wealthy, and wise. Now, the questions are business coaching questions. The questions are strategy questions. The questions are insightful questions. They're made specifically to get you to answer this in a way that's meaningful to you and the future of your business as you want to see it. Not my business, not your neighbor's business, not somebody on the other side of the country, not somebody up in Canada, not somebody down in the States, not somebody over in Europe or in Oceania. It's your business. What do you want your business to be? So it's very specific to you because it goes through your eyes and your filter. So let me show you what some of the answers that KC gave. Now, I want to point out, you don't know what country KC is from. You don't know what industry, what trade he's from. You don't even know his real name because it's not KC. His initials are KC, but his name's not Casey, if you know what I mean. So let's imagine for a second that we're looking at the top line, which is personal, and we're looking at personal wealth. What does personal wealth mean to KC? So here's his answer. I'm going to do this as best I can because I'm half blind. Personal wealth, able to go to dinner without worrying about money. Make decisions with dollars not being an issue. Interesting. So his measurement of personal wealth is just to be able to go to dinner. Somebody once told me that their measurement of wealth was very similar to KC's. They wanted to be able to take their family to a restaurant and order anything without worrying about the price on the menu. Interesting that that person that gave that quote and KC first thought about what they could do for their family. We're all here working so hard building a business, but we may have forgotten that the people in the background clapping without us hearing is your wife and your kids, or your husband and your kids, your family watching you. Make sure you turn around and give them some love back. Okay. Now, what about on the family side? So we're going to take family. That's the middle row. And then I'll go family and family wisdom. What does family wisdom mean to KC? I want to make family decisions, not individual decisions. Respect all members. Build up, not break down. Wow. So that's what he wants his family to look like. I'll bet you he's already got an honorable family that people look at and think, I want to be like those guys. But he's thinking, how can we be more than we are right now? So this is a dad with intent. The intent for his family to do better. Pretty honorable, pretty noble, certainly not wasting the opportunity that he's been given in this life. And I know he does things because he got this professional development tool, took it upon himself to fill it in, and took it upon himself to have the accountability to send it back. That's pretty cool. 2 thumbs up for you, KC. All right, now let's go to business. What does business wealthy mean? That's probably the one everybody wanted me to get to, right? So remember, these are his answers. I don't know what your answers are going to be. I hope you share them with me. That would be great if we had this little thing going where I shared these answers as we go. Obviously, I wouldn't share your name, but here's what business wealthy means to KC. Give bonuses where deserved. I want to purchase tools when needed and pay for education. And he also wants to donate and volunteer. Folks, you're talking or you're hearing the healthy, wealthy, wise planner from a man who definitely is a community leader, who thinks about giving to others. Not one of the things on here is about him doing something. He didn't say, I want to buy a new driver for me. He's talking about giving bonuses to others, purchasing tools for his team, pay for education. Maybe that's for him. I'm not sure, but I would imagine, given the flavor of everything else here, that paying for education is for others, and then donate and volunteer. So this guy wants to make money and have a bigger impact in this world and be more profitable so he can give it away, so he can tithe, so he can do mission work. How cool is that? And I wonder how many of you out there feel the same way. High five to you, my friend. That is probably the highest calling that any of us could have. If we can go out there and make something of our business and our life so that we can serve others more, that is pretty good. So I want to say thank you to KC, again, not his name, for doing the healthy, wealthy, wise planner and sending it back. If you want to, just send me a text message and ask for it, and then you can do the exercise yourself. By the way, I'm going to remind you all that I had a budget this year of paying $1,000 back out to all of the audience. For those of you who took one of the professional development tools, went to a coffee shop, bought yourself a coffee, and took a selfie of yourself with the coffee and send that selfie back to me. When I get that, I'll pay you $5. I'm buying your coffee for you. Obviously, I can't come with you to your coffee shop. Maybe one day I can, but I want to buy that coffee for you. I believe in what we do so much, and I believe in the impact that you have so much that I want this to happen for you. So I don't want you to say, well, I can't really afford a coffee, or why should I spend the time? I want you to spend the time because I, as your business coach, have asked you to do it. And that's the assignment. Go take a picture and I'll send you $5 to pay for that coffee. It's very simple. Brian Steinhardt did it. Brian is a great listener. He's been with us for many, many years as a listener. I think Brian's massive, or he only drinks out of very tiny coffee cups. I'm not sure, because from the picture, his hands look huge. And Brian, I'm joking with you. Al, Colin, Nick, Jonathan, how many of you have sent those pictures in? How many of you? And thank you for that. So all those people got their $5. If you haven't gotten yours yet, you got to get it. Anyways, the other thing that goes along with what Ryan was speaking about today is another professional development tool. So you've got 2 tools that I'm suggesting today. One of them is at the entrepreneur level. It's the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. If you want that, send me a text message. You guys know the number, 315-903-7853. Just say Healthy, Wealthy, Wise, and then I'll send that off to you. But the other tool that dovetails with the hiring horror stories that Ryan and I were talking about is the onboarding SOP and job description. We want to take care of the people. We want to find great people, but then we also want to take care of them. So there's an onboarding process that works. Now, you might not like my process. You might look at it and say, Rubino's list kind of sucks. And then you take your pen and you make it better. And guess what just happened? You made your own SOP. That's what we're trying to do here, right? So let's say you take mine and it sucks. Let's start with that. It probably sucks. My challenge to you, go make it better. But you have somewhere to start. You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to look at a blank piece of paper. You don't have to get to your office, close the door, finally be not bothered, put pen to paper, and suddenly somebody knocks at the door and a text message comes in, etc. At least with this, 80% of the work is done. You're going to make it the other 20% perfect. So trying to help, trying to have anticipate bottlenecks like we talked about before and overcome those bottlenecks. So there's our start with that. So if you want the onboarding SOP and job description, then shoot me a message by text. Texting is the best way to get me. By the way, our team is growing. You guys know the coaches that are on the team, and many of you are already working with us in some way, shape, or form, right? You've got Lee Miller, you've got Jake Power, you got Ryan Hindmarsh, you've got me, you guys know Maria, you know Helen, you know Vlad, you know Ian, but now we've added Rio to the team. Rio comes to me as a referral. We talked about that before, and just fantastic. Just so great to have him on the team, the energy and enthusiasm he brings. The reason he's here is because we're growing fast. And I need somebody to help me make sure that only the most serious business owners are able to get on a phone call with me. And that also, if there's any homework back and forth, that we manage that properly. So that's Rio's role here with us. And I'm super proud to have him on the team. So one day you may get a chance to talk to him. Say hi for us. All right, folks. Thank you very much for checking in. Listen, one day you and I, we're going to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. And that's actually why I do this show, so that one day we can do that. And I look forward to it. We'll talk to you then.